How are we all doing today? My name is Dave Gagino, and in today's book review, I have a very good book, and the book that I have for us today is a re-review, but it's one of the best books about learning. Learning as in how to learn, how to absorb information, how to learn, well, whatever you want out of life. So the book that I have for us today is one of my favorite books I've read about learning. It's good, it's easy to read. I like the methods in this book, and I've learned, honestly, picked up my learning mentalities and learning skills all from this book. And the book that we're re-reviewing today is by Jim Kwik. Now, the reason why, now you probably all were looking at the green and were like, yep, it's Limitless by Jim Kwik, but honestly, this is such a good book, and even it says at the top, Jim Kwik knows how to get the maximum out of me as a human being, and Will Smith said that. It's a New York Times bestseller. Upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. Because what Jim Kwik believes is he believes you can learn and do whatever you want with your life. And I do agree with that, but you also do got to think there are some things in life that you are just not meant to do. And honestly, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do have to think that you can't just quit because you're not getting it at that very moment. You need to find a way to absorb the information, find a way to use that information locked in your head, so you not only do you stay motivated to learn more, but you stay motivated to continue practicing that craft. So we're going to dive into the book here, and we're going a little far in the book, and we're talking about schedule time for distractions. We all love distractions, but I love what it says here, schedule time for distractions. So listen to this. It might be a challenge for you to turn off your phone and your email when you need to focus. But if you can convince yourself to do these things, great. They're relatively easy to do. What's likely to be considerably harder is to avoid letting worries and obligations get in the way of whatever you're trying to accomplish in that moment. There's a reason you're seeing these things as worries or obligations, and that makes them much harder to push out of your mind. Addressing one of your concerns head on, as we just discussed, is one way to deal with this, but there are going to be situations where that's simply not possible. Instead, what if you set aside a specific time in your schedule to move these worries and obligations to the forefront of your mind? Simply saying, I'll worry about that later, is likely to keep that worry from creeping back up 20 minutes from now. By saying, I'll worry about that at 4:15, very well might. Now, if you're having trouble focusing, or if your mind is operating on a dozen planes at the same time, it's very possible the reason this is happening is because there's something that you need to do that you've been avoiding doing. If that's the case, do a little 4-7-8 breathing, deal with the stressful task, and then get back to everything else you want to do with increased focus. Now, for a quick start, what is that one important thing that you're avoiding that is affecting your focus? So, a really big thing here that I think is doom scrolling. We all love to flip through our phone when there's an ad on the TV, or when we're at work, sitting in the break room, you're just flipping through your phone. Now, you schedule those distractions for, honestly, before you go to bed, or let's say at work, you say, I'm going to flip through my phone. I get 20-minute breaks at my job. You flip through your phone for 5 minutes of just whatever you want to look at. Like, I like to look through a lot of fitness stuff. I like to look through what my friends are doing, and just flip through your phone then. And then, I take my notes from my fighting class, and I'm learning to operate a machine from my machine notes, and I study them for like another 10 minutes, and for the rest of the time, I either watch fights or watch something that can educate myself. And if I'm eating, I just focus on eating. But other than that, that's what I try to do during my break time. Because notice I scheduled certain distractions, because it honestly doesn't matter what your friends are doing. It doesn't matter what certain people look good in on Instagram. It doesn't matter what your friend did this time. It also just doesn't matter what celebrity did this. None of that matters. It's fun to look at, and I enjoy it, but it does not matter. So schedule your distractions. I like what he says here. Addressing one of your concerns head on, as we just discussed, is one way to deal with this, but there are going to be situations where that's simply not possible, because for one, you're probably not going to get it, and two, addressing it is just not going to solve the problem, because you know, hey, I do get distracted by this, but I don't really care to fix it as of right now, because that also does happen. But when you schedule your distractions, think of how organized you'll be, and think of how much more you'll get done. if you schedule them. Instead of flipping through your phone for hours, try doing it for maybe 10 minutes. And if you get really good at scheduling it, be like, you know what, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes today. Stuff like that. Now, set aside a specific time in your schedule to do that, and they're relatively easy to do to set aside. So I guess to end this section is schedule your distractions. So in this book review is about taking notes. So taking notes has worked for me for many years, and taking notes is what I like to do. Is this is an idea for you all, is the notes, like I flip through notes on my phone. If you took notes on your phone, if you think about it, you bring your phone everywhere you go. Imagine if you reviewed your notes or reviewed things you wanted to learn while you're sitting in the doctor's office, while you're on breaks at work, while you're at work and there's nothing to do. Because your phone's always there and the notes are always there. And you get to flip through it and just read through them and practice memorizing 4 or 5 of the things you wrote down throughout the day, and that's how you learn. So that is something I started doing, because putting them on paper is great, but my paper's not always here, and it's like 9:40 at night right now. I have to be up at 4 tomorrow to go to work, so I'm not dealing with studying right now. But listen to what he has to say here about taking notes. Listen to this. Studying under the best conditions will likely improve your retention considerably. In preparation for your studies, in concert with your studies, upgrading your note-taking ability is invaluable. The ultimate advantage of taking notes is that they customize the information you need to retain your vocabulary and your mode of thinking. At their best, notes allow you to organize and process information in a way that makes it most likely that you can use this information afterward. Now, many people take notes ineffectively. Common pitfalls include concentrating so heavily on writing notes that you're not actually listening to the information. Trying to write down every single thing you hear and writing notes in such a way that they won't be helpful to you a day later. It's easy to avoid all of these pitfalls once you are aware of them. So let's put a plan together for upgrading your note-taking ability. And then he does that. But also, I really love what he says here. The ultimate advantage of taking notes is that they customize the information you need to retain to your vocabulary and your mode of thinking. So honestly, with words, so here's a really good example. There is a movie, I will not name the movie, but it's about poker. And this lady who was running these poker tournaments was learning poker by looking up the vocabulary words or the words they were using during the game. So not only did that help her, she did eventually take notes of it, but not only did that help her, but it helped retain her vocabulary and helped her learn certain rules of the game. And with anything you learn in life, there's going to be vocabulary. With anything you learn in life, there's going to be vocabulary. And whether you like it or not, vocabulary is how you learn. It also helps you sound more intelligent and more like you know something. And also, I will tell you, if you think vocabulary does not matter, if you say something and someone asks you what it means and you don't know what it means, not only will you look like an absolute fool, but I'm probably not going to ask you for any more advice if you do not know, like, what you're talking about, if that makes sense. But, and both in preparation for studies and concert with your studies, upgrading your note-taking ability is invaluable. Honestly, learning how to learn better is invaluable. And a lot of people don't realize that. In life, you can learn whatever you want in life. But I do believe you have to learn a skill or something that is helpful or something that people find interesting. I love learning about actors and actresses, but there are some people who do not care to talk about that stuff, and there are some people that do. I love to learn about true crime. Some people do not like that stuff, and some people can't even handle that stuff. But information like I'm learning about fitness, I'm learning about the machine, I'm trying to learn Spanish, but that's harder to do because I need to speak it every day. But I'm trying to learn all of those things, and I do that through note-taking. For Spanish, I learn by putting it and translate and repeating it to myself. For the fitness stuff, I watch a video, take notes over it, and review it at work. And for the machine, I just do repetitive things on that machine in order to learn the machine. But take note for taking notes, because honestly, notes on your phone are great, but on paper, they're great, but Also, if you like taking notes, I think you'll learn better if you just simply like taking notes. If you like to write, if you like to learn, I just think if you really like to write, you'll enjoy taking notes. But think about that for a second. Taking notes, your note-taking ability, and the invaluable part of taking notes. So think. And the third and final part we have here in this book is about association. So listen to what the author has to say about association. Listen to this. This is the key to memory and all of learning. In order to learn any new piece of information, it must be associated with something you already know. This is worth repeating. To remember any new piece of information, you must associate it with something you already know. You have done this all your life. You just might not have been aware of it. Here's a simple test. What comes to your mind when you think of a cherry? Perhaps red, sweet, fruit, pie, round, seeds, etc. These are words and pictures that you have learned to link to a cherry. You associated something you knew to something you did not know. You associated to ride a bike, eat your food, have a conversation, and learn to do anything. In the same way when making a story out of words on your list, you associate them consciously. For easier recall, your mind is constantly making countless associations every minute, most of them without your conscious awareness. This is how you learn. Do you have a song that reminds you of a special person? That memory is an association. Do you have a smell that reminds you of a time in... I like what this quote says here. A thought is a feat of association. Having what's in front of you bring up something in your mind that you almost didn't know you knew. Or, like we're reading here, your childhood. That memory is an association. Why not use this information and make associations consciously to learn more effectively? So let me reread this quote. All thought is a feat of association. Having what's in front of you bring up something in your mind that you almost didn't know you knew. So I like what he says here. These are words and pictures that you've learned to link a cherry. It's like what he said. Perhaps red, sweet, fruit, pie, round, seeds, etc. Now, you may not have realized it, but how I learned with weightlifting, for example, is not only did I take notes, but I just remember the words, like with bench pressing. Squeeze and try to bend the bar. Tuck your elbows. And punching through the wall. So I'm thinking like of punch through, tuck your elbows, squeeze. Like I'm repeating all of that to myself, not only as I warm up, but as I train to bench. Now, do you develop eventually a habit of that? Sometimes. I still tell myself, be tight and push. And how do you learn, like, how to bench? Well, I know that's formalized, but a good example, a better example, is with science. When you have those vocabulary tests in school about science, you associate it with, like, how you remembered this word. How did you do this word? If it was about trees, what is this relevant to a tree? Because usually how vocabulary words work is the syllables usually mean something with the word. Isn't that crazy? It usually means something with the word. I can't even think of any examples on top of my head, but if you really think about it, that's how vocabulary words work, and that's how learning works. And the best example is the 50 states. You find out a word that reconciles with the state, and you figure out that word to where you memorize all capitals of 50 states. And like you said with the song, the 50 States song that we did, I think there was a cartoon that sang a 50 States song, but when you had that test of the capitals of the United States of America, all in like, kind of like order, I think might have been a time, at least that's what I had to do. But you just had to learn all of them. And you learned it through a song and through other words that helped you remember the capitals. In life, though, I guess the takeaway for all of this is you can learn, you just have to be willing to learn. This is how you problem solve, by figuring out what works for you. If you have a teacher who just tells you I don't have patience with you, then they're not a good teacher. A good teacher is someone who has patience with everybody, and a good teacher is a good problem solver to show you how to learn it. In life, when it comes to learning something, you not only have to be, you can't just blame the teacher. There are bad teachers out there, but if it's like 4 or 5 bad teachers you go through, it's probably you. Because that is a lot, and I'm pretty sure you're just going to get swindled with bad teachers. So I guess the point here is you have to be a good student. You have to be a good student when you're trying to learn from anybody. So, overall, this was a very good book on learning. I really wanted to review this whole book. So I might have videos just back and forth here soon of just reviewing this entire book. But this was a very, very good book. I want to thank you all for sitting with me through this, to learn this book. And the takeaway for today is take notes on something. Find something to learn, take notes over it. And spend probably 10 minutes taking notes over it. Review those notes and see what happens. Just see what happens. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all read Limitless. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have read it, what you liked about it, what you disliked about it, or what you learned from it, or even better. But I want to thank you all for watching, and you all have a